They called him the shoe fetish killer, a man so obsessed with women's footwear, he killed to feed his twisted fantasies. His crimes shocked America. His desires left a trail of mutilated bodies and broken families. But behind the horror was a boy with a fetish, rejected by his mother and consumed by urges he couldn't control. What turns a collector into a killer? What drives someone to make a corpse their plaything? Tonight, we dive into the mind of Jerry Brudos, a man whose name still echoes in the nightmares of true crime. This isn't just about murder. It's about how society ignored the signs, how fantasy fed into depravity, and how a basement became a temple of death. This is the full story. Inside the mind of a killer fan. What went wrong? Jerry Brudos was born in 1939, the unwanted second son of a mother who desperately wished for a daughter. His mother resented him, scolded him, and kept him emotionally distant. But it wasn't just neglect. It was targeted psychological rejection. One day, little Jerry brought home a pair of discarded high heels he found in a junkyard. His mother flew into a rage. She burned them. But to Jerry, those shoes weren't garbage. They were beautiful. From that moment, the connection between femininity, rejection, and control began to form inside his young mind. It wouldn't take long before it turned deadly. By his teenage years, Jerry's fascination had evolved. He didn't just want to look at shoes. He wanted to steal them, touch them, smell them, and more importantly, he wanted to see the women who wore them vulnerable. He broke into homes. He stole underwear and stilettos. He fantasized about women being humiliated, stripped, forced to pose. At 17, Jerry kidnapped a girl, held a knife to her throat, and demanded she strip so he could photograph her. She escaped, and Jerry was institutionalized, diagnosed with schizophrenia and treated as a juvenile delinquent. Brudos was released after a year. No meaningful therapy, no long-term follow-up, just a twisted fetish left to grow in the dark. He graduated, married a woman named Darcy, had children, and built a home with a basement no one could enter but him, a secret room, a hidden shrine. Jerry worked as an electrician, quiet, friendly, but beneath that calm surface, his urges were boiling. He forced Darcy to wear high heels while doing house chores. He photographed her in lingerie, often without her full understanding. And downstairs, in the locked basement, he began collecting, not just photos or shoes, but ideas. His fantasies turned into scripts. Scripts became blueprints, and those blueprints led to murder. Linda Slauson, 19 years old, was selling encyclopedias door to door. Jerry invited her in, calm, charming. Then he struck her with a 2x4. She died instantly. He dressed her corpse in stolen lingerie, posed her with shoes, photographed her body. Then, in an act of horrific depravity, he severed her left foot and preserved it in his freezer. Not for evidence, for pleasure. He would take the foot out occasionally, just to model different shoes on it, as if it were alive. Over the next year, more women would disappear. John Susan Whitney, 23, was offered a ride after her car broke down. Brudos strangled her in his garage and again brought her to the basement, where he raped her corpse repeatedly, photographed her, and suspended her body with ropes. Karen Sprinker, 19, was abducted from a department store parking lot. He forced her to undress at gunpoint, made her wear lingerie, photographed her, then raped and strangled her. Linda Sally, 22, was lured under the pretense of a modeling job. She was killed and mutilated. Brudos tied weights to his victims and dumped them into the Willamette River. But he kept something from each: shoes, bras, underwear, or body parts, trophies of domination. When police finally caught him in 1969, they were horrified at his confessions. Brudos described his acts not with remorse, but with detail, methodical, detached, proud. He admitted to having sex with the corpses, sometimes more than once, until their condition deteriorated. To him, it wasn't about passion. It was about control, the ultimate form of submission. Experts labeled him a necrophiliac, a fetishist, a sexual sadist. But he was also a chilling reminder of how obsession can evolve into annihilation. Brudos pleaded guilty to 3 murders and was sentenced to life in prison. He never showed guilt. In fact, He kept collecting shoe catalogs in prison. He was still fantasizing, still living in that basement, in his mind. He died in 2006 of liver cancer after serving 37 years behind bars. So, what went wrong? Was it a troubled childhood? A society that ignored mental illness? Or the dangerous silence surrounding taboo sexual behaviors? Maybe the truth lies in all of it. But one thing is certain. Jerry Brudos didn't just kill women. He dehumanized them. He made them props in a twisted fantasy that could never be satisfied. This is what happens when obsession meets opportunity. When fantasy overcomes reality. When a mind slips into darkness and never returns.